Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, Steve.
What a great piece. When did you arrange that?
Well, I arranged that. It was about 3 years ago. I was living in Colorado, University of Colorado, and I became good friends with the director of jazz studies there, John Gunter, and we collaborated a little bit together. And I wrote this arrangement for us. It was actually part of my doctoral degree, part of my one of my chamber music recitals.
Beautiful,
So,
beautiful. Now you're originally from Sao Paulo.
I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. Paulo from São Paulo, easy to remember.
How long were you there? When did you move to the United States?
Well, I was born and raised there. I got my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's in guitar in Brazil, and I moved to the United States in 2011. I was 24 years old. Now you can do the math, you know how old I am. I was 24 and I came to University of Missouri where I studied, I did my master's degree in classical guitar. Then I stayed there a little longer, got another master's degree in jazz guitar. I always had this passion on both classical guitar and jazz guitar. So stayed there for a while. Then from there, I moved to Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado, where I did my DMA. And from there, they opened a position here and I applied for the job and was fortunate to.
At Belmont University here.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Tell us about, we've already had some questions about things. Tell us about the instrument that you're playing today.
Okay, it's this guitar is a handmade guitar by a Brazilian maker. His name is Joacir Carvalho. Good friend of mine. I've been working with him for over maybe around 10 years now. I own 2 of his guitars. This one has a spruce top and Indian rosewood on the back and sides. So I own 2 of his guitars. The other one I have is Brazilian rosewood on back and sides. An interesting thing about this guitar, also there's like a little angle here, a radius here on the fretboard. So it's not 100% straight. They do that on electric guitars very often, but not as much on classical.
Right.
But I asked him to do just a little bit of curve here. For some things it helps, you know, when you have to put a bar chord. Sometimes to press the strings in the middle is a little bit easier because of this angle that you have. So, and I have this, as you noticed earlier.
Yes, I was fascinated by the
show that to the camera.
Sound hole.
What that is, there's a sound hole here. Is also, I think he does that with Brazilian rosewood too. Does it by hand. Joacir is a great guitar maker. And when you're playing big halls, especially for solo or even chamber music, you can hear yourself a little better because the guitar is an instrument that projects that way. But when you have this little sound port here, that's what they call, you can hear yourself, and it's I think
which is such a wonderful idea to do that. I remember I played. One of the instruments that the boutique guitar show that came through Nashville and came through Gruen Guitars last year, one of the acoustics that they had actually 2 sound ports. And so as soon as you played it, it was this glorious stereo sound that hit your ears. It was amazing. So I was like, that's a great idea. More builders should do that on acoustic instruments.
And what I learned from him is that my first question was, you're not going to lose, the audience are not going to lose any sound. And from his research, he doesn't think so. Like just a little hole on the side that shouldn't affect. You cannot do anything to the top. You know, the top is where the whole sound of the guitar comes from. But it's kind of nice. I got used to it, and I like it. Yeah.
Now that one, I take it, does not have a pickup in it.
No pickup. Just because I can't really. I haven't had the courage to make a hole.
That's a scary thing on a fine instrument.
So what I do when I do sessions or when I have to record is try to use a nice microphone. I have a little DPA microphone that I use to. Sometimes I play with Alex for bigger audience. I amplify a little bit with that microphone.
Good. Alex, it's an honor to have you here with us.
It's my honor.
As a guitar show, we don't get instrumentalists near enough.
I feel very privileged to be here.
For those that may not be as familiar with the instrument that you're playing, tell us a little bit about the soprano sax.
Well, as you said, it's a soprano saxophone. Out of the commonly played saxophones, this is the highest pitched. There are other less common ones that are even higher pitched than a soprano, like a sopranino, for instance. But But the soprano is the one you'd commonly see, most commonly. I actually play more alto saxophone, but
Right.
this one of the reasons I love playing with Paulo is I think that this is a really good fit to play soprano and guitar and acoustic guitar, and so I've really gotten a lot out of working on these arrangements, or working on specifically on the soprano saxophone.
It's a wonderful, unique mix of sounds there.
Mhm.
Now, soprano, if I remember right, that would be, most people may be familiar with a tenor saxophone, kind of with a straight
That's right.
piece that comes out, and then to the horn that comes down here, and that would be an octave above. The soprano would be an octave above
Exactly.
the
It's
tenor.
one octave above the tenor saxophone.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Fascinating. And that would be in the key of
B flat.
B flat.
B flat instruments. It's the same key that trumpets are in.
So if he's playing a C chord, you would have to play a D note or whatever.
Hey, I
to-
play a D chord. That's right.
Yeah. So for those of you in guitar world that have never experienced that, instrumentalists have to do an awful lot of transposition in order to make things work when they play along with concert instruments, which is what we are in guitar world, and piano and things like that. So a soprano saxophone is in the key of B flat, so he has to transpose everything up a major second to be in the same pitch. And B flat trumpets would be the same. Now, an alto saxophone, that would be in E flat.
E flat. That's right.
That's right.
And we have to transpose everything up a six, a
Up a
major
sixth.
six.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of trickiness that's involved with that. So wonderful. Well, we're honored that you would be here with us. And I was reading through some of your stuff. Saxophone is not only the only instrument that you play. You play some other things as well.
Yeah,
What
I
else do you
play a fair amount of flute, and we do some of that as well. We're not going to do that tonight, but I play flute, and I play the different saxophones, and I play a little bit of clarinet as well. And I'm definitely not going to play that attempt that for you this evening. So.
But it's not uncommon for saxophonists, instrumentalists like that, to double on other
That's right.
reed instruments
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, especially in a town like Nashville.
Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
And if I remember right, you got your doctorate from Eastman,
I did. Yeah.
which is quite an amazing school, and so yes, not many come out of there with doctorates. So
Very fortunate.
honored to have you here with us. We already have some great questions coming up. I wanted to ask you a little bit, Paulo, when you're building, let's say, an arrangement like this, and all of those rich chords that you're coming up against, what's going through your head as you're trying to build these chord shapes?
That's a very good question, and I hope I can answer it in a because well, I think when I write music arrangements or original compositions, I think everything that I listen to comes into the mix. So I'm a huge fan of classical music. I'm also a huge fan of jazz and popular music too, and I have all those different influences that when I'm writing or I'm arranging, they end up appearing on the page without, because it's like speaking a language. You're exposed to it, you're exposed, we study it, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it requires work, but this thing comes out in your playing, your arrangement. So, but to be a little more specific here, for example, as far as harmony goes, I spent a lot of time analyzing jazz standards, studying the music of the great classical composers such as Beethoven, Bach, Debussy. I played a lot of classical guitar repertoire where you put yourself in certain situations, harmonic situations and melodic situations. I transcribed solos. So all those things, they come into play when I'm writing.
Yeah.
I use everything that I play, from like Bach to the music of Manuel Ponce, a Mexican classical composer. Those certain idiomatic things about the guitar, I always try to use. For example, this tune, one of the reasons why I arranged that, because the original key was E minor, and it's a big key for guitar. And I'm playing with Alex. Alex does a wonderful job controlling the dynamics and everything, but I also on my side here I have to make sure I push and I have a lot of sound, and I need to have chords that match that intensity. He took a solo and he was make it bigger and the dynamic was growing, so I need to be able to do that. If this arrangement was in E flat, first I would have a lot of bar chords, and
Yeah.
the sound of my guitar would
Change the whole sound of it.
exactly.
Yes.
So I have to think about this is like almost like an orchestration technique,
Right.
but because you have to think about the characteristics of each instrument. Which for Alex, this key can be a little tricky because for him he's gonna have to play a lot of sharps
A lot
over
of
there.
sharps, yeah, and F
But
sharp minor there.
he does a good job with that.
Even the opening chord. What is that opening chord that
Okay,
you
so
that you
the
played
opening
there?
chord is an E minor chord, E minor 9,
Mm-hmm.
but has a major 7.
Which just that twist of the major
Yeah,
seventh
exactly.
in a typical E minor ninth
Yeah, it would have be this.
pulls that ear.
Yeah,
a
so that
different
would be
way.
like what people are used to, like the jazz guys would be playing minor like that,
Yeah.
play swing or play
Yeah.
bossa nova. But this is more like, and it was the open strings obviously, and you got this cluster. And actually, I like this specific voice because you have two clusters. Have F sharp against G and D sharp against E.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very
so
rich.
and it's easy to move up for the next chord. It's F major 7, sharp 11. So you're gonna have again some seconds here, and you get the big sound of the guitar. So that's the idea.
Beautiful. It's amazing how just a one note here and there can just really open up the color of what the a rather standard chord would become.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, I know you grew up in Brazil, and Brazil has brought so much jazz, their own kind of genre of jazz with some of the brilliant composers and Jobim and all of these wonderful composers. Explain to our audience how that is slightly different from like American jazz, swing, that sort of stuff. Brazilian has a very different rhythmic foundation and some of the chordal foundation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that because during my master's degree, one of my research topics was just to understand a little more about this musical exchange between Brazil and the United States.
Yes.
Because initially, when you go back to the beginnings of Bossa Nova, in the late 50s, early 60s, you are going to see a lot of influence from the United States to Brazil, where you have composers like Jobim and a few others, Carlos Lira, and other composers that became Edu Lobo, that made Bossa Nova such an important movement. Most of those composers, they were connected to American jazz. They knew the literature. They knew Duke Ellington. They knew Miles Davis' music.
And Stan Getz.
Stan
His
Getz.
great
that
collaboration with
connection,
Jobim.
yeah. And actually, in my research, I point out actually to cool jazz as being one of the influences, and that's something that for me kind of makes sense because the bossa has that kind of relaxed kind of feel, which is different from bebop.
Yeah,
You know, you have the harmony, but just the way that the music feels. So you have the birth of the cool with Miles Davis, the arrangements, the shorter length of the tunes. They would take solos, but they are not extensive like it was during the bebop era, where Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie would take like those extended solos, super chromatic. So that's just my take on it. You know, that's.
Explain like a typical bossa rhythm on guitar. You know, kind of a Jobim sort of a rhythm. Can you illustrate that and talk about how that
and a lot of people, they think a lot about you know, how to do that right hand and how to do that rhythm. And moving to the United States, and I obviously have mostly American students here. A lot of them are very interested in Brazilian music and trying to understand how to make that groove happen. And it was interesting because I was born and raised in Brazil, so I kind of like never really sat down. During my doctorate, that was when I realized I had some students at University of Colorado and here, but back then was like, well, I just need to figure out a pedagogical way to teach that and to make the student understand. So I actually wrote out some patterns, but I can show you here a simple one here. It also depends on how fast you're playing. If it's more like a samba, it's gonna be a little different, but the basic pattern, I'm just gonna tune again really quick here while you get set up. That would be like the basic cha cha tu cha 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 tu cha cha. And I think it's important on the downbeat you play chord and bass at the same time. And then you can subdivide. I'm just starting from the basic. Basses are always on the beat.
Root and fifth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very often the fifth being the lower note.
Yeah.
Some people play. It's not wrong, but
Doesn't have the weight, the groove.
Yeah, the weight is on the low. And if you're gonna play, please.
Beautiful.
And just a quick thing, if you're gonna play a little faster, more like a samba, then you have other options like just playing. You just play your bass on the beat, and you play your accompaniment on the upbeat. So and the articulation too. Here's the E minor major 7 again.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Let's see. We have so many questions here. Lee Candiati is asking, Paulo, do you know Diego Figueiredo? Figueiredo. And have you worked or played with him in the past?
No, I haven't met him yet. I think we've played in same kind of situations like festival. I've been following him online. I've seen his stuff, and he's an amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
He's an amazing improviser. I haven't yet. I hope one day. I haven't really met him yet. We have some friends in common, I think. But he definitely, if you guys don't know his music, Diego Figueiredo is great.
What are some other players that would, if folks are interested in learning a little bit more about Brazilian style jazz, what are some of the influencers in that genre?
Yeah, you can have. There are a few. For the youngest, from this youngest generation of guitarists, Chico Pinheiro. Chico Pinheiro, yeah, he's an amazing guitarist. He's based in New York now. He's a Berkeley grad, but he's from São Paulo also, and he's just a great guitarist, great songwriter, and you guys should definitely check him out, especially if you want to learn a little more about groove and single line playing. He's amazing.
What's his name again?
Chico Pinheiro. If you're gonna spell CHICO, and you can find him online very easily. And also you have other guys like Yamandu Costa. He's an amazing soloist. He plays nylon string guitar. I think most of guitarists. He's one of the most famous guitarists, Brazilian guitarists right now. Yamandu Costa is also another great name.
Wow. And of course the founding fathers of that, like Jobim.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you have all the big, the Jobim played piano, played guitar. If you want to learn a little bit more about the groove and like the songwriting aspect of Bossa Nova, João Gilberto would be a great one. He's a singer, a songwriter, and guitarist. So that would be a great reference to.
What I've always appreciated is the ability to take just a few chords, a few notes within a chord, and they're just changing one note here, one note there, and it creates a very complex harmonic environment, but actually they're just going, just changing one note here and there, especially with some of the Jobim stuff. And they're going through all of these chord changes, but just little, it's just a little movement here, a little movement there. The chords are so connected.
Yes, as far as voice leading goes, the music of Jobim is a great example. We have a lot of great examples on his music where you have a major 7 chords, arrivals like a 2-5, and instead of arriving on 1, you play the 1 fully diminished, which is a voice leading, right? So you have, instead of doing you do.
Yes.
So there are a lot of different examples, and as your example you gave in a 2/5, you have a progression. You move one note, you have a 2/5/1,
Yeah.
so you have that seventh going down to the third of the
Yeah.
5 chord.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little theoretical here.
It's fascinating to me. I how you can get using just a few notes, kind of a minimalist technique, and you're be able to create all this different harmony that's going on with just a few notes, the right pitches in those chords.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Keith Bates is asking, are there certain keys or modes that you favor for compositions?
That's an interesting question. When I'm composing and writing arrangements, I don't think as much from a modal perspective. Sometimes I do, but the modal perspective is more useful for me when I'm improvising, to make certain choices on the fly. And I have, as a student, I had to sit down and just learn all those modes in all keys on the guitar, and not only modes of major scale, which a lot of students, when they think about modes, they think about modes of the major scale. But you have modes of melodic minor scale, which is a sound that Alex and I have been exploring a lot, composing together, and you have sounds of a harmonic minor scale, have sounds from symmetrical scales like diminished scale, and those scales also you're gonna get different versions of it if we start on different notes.
Right.
So it's hard for me to say which one I favor, but I tend to use a lot of definitely the major modes and melodic minor, modes of melodic minor too. You can have a lot of different options, chordal options and melodic options with those scales.
Can you play us another song?
Yes. So the next one was written by one of my my great heroes, great guitar heroes, Ralph Towner. Classical. He's right in that right in between the classical and the jazz styles. And this arrangement I did actually, I did this arrangement 3 years ago. I had a duo with an oboe player, Dan Willett, oboe player, oboe professor at the University of Missouri, and we recorded the CD. And this arrangement was we recorded together, and I rearranged it for soprano saxophone, and I tweaked it a little bit so Alex could improvise also on a session for improvisation, and gave him some liberties here to change some things. I wrote those arrangements, but at the end of the day, we work together, and it's a collaborative process, and I think I should start signing his name on those arrangements too. And I'll split the check with you.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing Icarus 50-50, yeah. Icarus by Ralph Towner. And that was recorded by Paul Winter Consort.
Oh, okay.
And Paul McCandles, and that's the soprano saxophone is
Paul Winter, played with
soprano saxophone.
Ralph Towner.
New strings, so if you can learn a lesson from me today, don't change the string right before a concert, because you're gonna
Not with nylon
strings. Exactly.
Yeah, you'll be tweaking it all night long.
Thank you.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, we will let them take a break for just a minute, and let me give you a few announcements to take a break for just a second from this beautiful music. Then we'll get back to a little bit more jazz using an electric guitar. You're going to be doing some electric stuff. All right. Hey, I wanted to let you guys know. Well, let's give something away. We haven't given anything. I forgot last week with Greg Voros. Did y'all enjoy Greg Voros last week? Man, we covered some great ground and with guitar care, with guitar maintenance. If you're interested, go back and check that one. We've got our YouTube channel, which you're on right now. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and that helps you get everything that we put out. Go back and check last week's one. A lot of great content we covered there with Greg. You know, Groons is having their 50th anniversary of being a store, and that is coming up. That's actually this year, 50 years of being a store. It's absolutely amazing. So I wanted to give away a shirt. So we're going to give away a shirt. The winner of this Groons shirt is Dale Roddick. Dale Roddick. Dale, if you can, tell us what size you are. I just grabbed an extra large off the shelf, but if you are something else, let us know before I go, and we will get this out to you. Send me your information at service@guitargathering.com, service@guitargathering.com, and if you can, even in the chat, though, right now, tell us what size you are, and we will get this out to you in the right size. But then email me with all of your contact information, your mailing address, things like that, and a screen name, what you want, and I will get this out to you in the next day or two. All right, that is that. We have our summer guitar conference coming up. It just is now February. In June, a mere 4 months from now, June 10th through the 13th, we have our big summer guitar conference, Guitar Gathering 2020. You can go to guitargathering2020.com and get all the information. If you're interested in coming to Nashville, spending about 4 days doing nothing but guitar, there's workshops and master classes with amazing guest artists. We've got Thumb Picker of the Year, Parker Hastings is with us. We've got Australia's Got Talent winner, Joe Robinson, legendary fingerstyle player. We've got David Greer, a bluegrass guitarist of the year, many, many years in a row. And then we have Robin Ford, who's going to be teaching a little bit of blues guitar and jazz and fusion and that sort of stuff. So it's going to be an amazing time. We have workshops in different areas for different skill levels. We're going to try and switch some things up this time. And if you're interested, check it out at guitargathering2020.com. And it's right here in Nashville, June 10th through the 13th. And spots are already filling up. So if you're interested, there you go. And we've got, if you've got a guest, we've got guest rates, and then you can stay in the dorms, you can stay around town, whatever you want to do. All right, so that's that. We also have our fall fingerstyle guitar retreat, which is in the end of October, the beginning of November. This year, it's October 29th through November 1st. That is a smaller, more intimate event. If you're into, make sure it's a good one. We're working on it. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Giandrino. Giandrino.
I think I know this guy.
You think you know him?
He's a good friend of mine. I think.
Good, good. Well, Giandrino, you have just won actually a double CD by Antoine Dufour. Send me your information at service@guitargathering.com, mailing address, things like that, and we will get this out to you. Hey, congratulations. That's a lot of fun. All right. We also have our discussion board, guitargathering.com. We'll get you to our discussion board. If you're not yet a member of our discussion board, it's all free. There's all kinds of resources there. I put up some more lessons this week, and so if you're interested, check it out. That's a great resource to connect with different players and different people of different genres. So, all right, that's enough of me yabbering on about that. Let's get you to play one more thing, and then we will answer a few more questions. Now, you were telling me earlier about this amazing guitar that you have here. What is that?
Yeah, so this guitar here was made by a friend of mine and very, very talented a guitar maker from Brazil, from
Mhm.
São Paulo, Brazil, and we met about 2 years ago, and I visited his shop and played a few of his guitars, and the
Mhm.
quality of his work was amazing.
Mhm.
And I was looking for a nice top guitar,
Mhm.
so I stayed
It's
at
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
thank you. And I stayed at his shop for about 4 or 5 hours, talking, about like ideas, what I wanted. I played because
Mhm.
I have this classical guitar background, so I wanted an instrument that would kind of like serve me both ways to play with a pick and also play with my fingers.
Mhm.
And João Cassias, we worked together for about a little over a year. We pretty much worked on it together. He was very open to my suggestions, and actually, I mean, there was not that much to suggest because I played the guitars that he made before for other people, and I loved it so much.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's what I want.
Yes.
Just small things like, the pickup he developed with a company in Brazil,
Mhm.
which is great. He asked me to try, and I tried, and
Mm.
I don't feel like switching. Here in the
Mhm.
United States, we have so many options of great pickups, but honestly, like I'm happy
Yeah.
with this.
You've got the wooden bridge there.
The wooden bridge, exactly, which
Beautiful.
helps with the tone, and
Yeah.
I could have used a metal bridge,
Mhm.
but this one is for what I do.
That brings such a
It's
warmth to it, is
great.
that wooden
Yeah,
bridge.
it's great, and then you can, just to take a look at the instrument.
Yeah.
It's-
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still learning how to play it because I got it just a month ago. I just came back
Mhm.
from Brazil a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and I'm still working on it, trying to practice and understand the instrument.
Yeah.
I changed string gauge three times in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because
Well,
I'm
you got to
trying-
find the right one.
Yeah,
you gotta
exactly.
find the one that works
And
for
I
that
feel
guitar.
like now I'm with 12s. I wasn't
Mhm.
with 13s,
Mhm.
and that was pretty,
And those are flat
Those-
wound
those are
strings,
flat
I noticed.
wounds,
Yep.
yes,
So it's going to give a real
really
warm,
warm and
full sort of a sound.
mhm.
Very good for jazz stuff.
Exactly. I'm just gonna make sure I'm in tune.
Beautiful.
So we're gonna be playing a tune by Corea,
Mhm.
great pianist Corea, and this is kind of a arrangement that we kind of developed together. Just like jamming and
Mhm.
trying different things, and we're gonna try. It's the first time we play this
Let's see what
arrangement.
happens.
So,
Play our arrangement.
arrangement. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. What a lovely sounding instrument, and the combination between y'all's both is amazing. Alex, I've got a question for you. Guitarists, we do a lot of accompanying. What is something that in your playing that you like for us? What makes a good accompanist? What do you need from a guitarist as an accompanying?
That's a great question. And it's one I ask myself all the time, not because I'm a teacher too, and I teach ensembles, and I have guitarists, and I think it's so interesting because it's very contextual, you know.
Yeah.
It depends on what the kind of group is, how many people are in the group. Do you have a piano player also, another chord instrument?
Yeah.
Do you have a rhythm section or not? Like we don't, you know.
Right.
So in our situation, one thing that's really interesting. And it's a challenge that we have to figure out together is you know, since you don't have a bass player or drummer, you don't have these other instruments laying down the time, so you can kind of relax against that.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes Paulo's really great about he like lays down some just solid time for me, so that I can be really free with things. You know, in a way that if we had some other instruments, maybe he would feel. He may even drop out sometimes and like let the piano player or play more sparsely or more kind of over the beat or over the rhythm, but then when we're really getting into it, we can kind of transcend that too. And Paulo does an amazing job of just like we can have the same concept of time in our head come out in the same place, you know. Yeah. Usually, hopefully we do. It's probably my fault that we don't. And then I really love it when guitarists can hear the kinds of maybe harmonic ideas that I might be trying to bring to a situation. Right. Ways I might be altering chords or substitutions and things like that. And then if you get to know, like we've got to know each other pretty well as players, so you start to be able to anticipate what other people are going to do in certain situations. And so that's been cool. Yeah.
In this sort of situation, you know, Paulo, you're basically a one-man rhythm section. You're having to play bass lines. You're having to keep the rhythm happening with the other parts of your picking, and keep the harmonic ideas happening over here. So there's a lot going on, a lot of independence that needs to happen here with your fingers. Can you talk a little bit about how a player would build up some of that independence between the different, like being able to play a bass line and chords and that sort of stuff?
I guess for me, in my case, because of my classical guitar training, and I've worked on a lot of like polyphonic music, fugues by Bach, Baroque fugues, and a lot of different styles. So my right hand, I was always trying to achieve that, just not only like a bass line and chords, but really like 4 different voices.
Right.
So that it comes a little bit from that perspective. So I don't think necessarily electric guitarist needs to learn classical guitar, but I think a basic understanding of a right hand technique and practicing some arpeggios, practice some etudes that require like voicing, like different kinds of voicing. And by voicing, I mean the structure of the chords here, but the voicing from a perspective of sound. If I'm playing this chord, a sequence of chords, like my top note's my melody. So even on a second, you can still or play like a chord melody. You're gonna play alternately, be able to put the weight on the finger that has the melody.
Yeah.
And sometimes there will be more basic cases where that's when the melody's on top. But you're going to have cases where the melody is in the middle of the chord. It can be even more challenging. Have things like that. So the melody is here. You have accompaniment here and the bass. So that adds you have to
tricky.
You have to orchestrate and understand and that's where, I mean, in my case, I love classical guitar, but and it comes in handy when we have arrangements. And I have one arrangement of Pat Martini tune that the saxophone doubles one of my inner voices. So I play this sequence of chords, one of the voices in the middle. So when I play, I try to bring that out a little bit to match. And you have to phrase that voice, which can also be a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting way to approach the guitar, because a lot of people think the guitar as being either a melodic instrument or a harmonic instrument. But the guitar is also a polyphonic instrument, like a piano is, or a choir.
Right.
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And I know when I'm accompanying someone as well, I often feel like a lot of my job is just to create a solid platform for you to play the melody off of and things like that, so where you're not feeling shaky in the tempo or in the direction of the song or something like that. And if I can, especially if I'm working with a singer, if I can create a good solid, they know when to come in, because I'm leading my voices there. They know, as the phrase is going on, I'm working with them to do that. I feel I've done a good job when I'm accompanying, when I'm in that role, and they feel secure. When they feel insecure, I start to think, okay, I'm not doing a good job, because I need to make them feel secure.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I feel the same way when I'm playing on a gig that like if it's a duo gig and I don't know the guy who's playing the melodic instrument, I'm going to start first laying down the time, make sure that we can connect. Like with Alex, we've been playing together for a while, so we are at the point where if I start to be a little loose, he understands it. And Alex is really good at playing really clear, like clear rhythms. So sometimes if I'm going a little bit out, or if I'm playing a line, sometimes we're both playing lines. We really like that texture. Yeah. So he's kind of accompanying me there. Yeah. And he plays. And there was situations where my time was a little loose, and he would like just come in and just just to make sure that we are in the same place. And at the end, it sounds really organic. Yeah. So that's one of the interesting thing about playing for melodic instruments, because he can also comp. And on the last tune we're gonna play, there is a section that I play a solo and he comps with a melody. That sounds a little weird, right? Yeah. But his accompaniment is a melody. Yeah. Yeah. So it's 2 melodies going at the same time.
I would encourage you, as you're learning and playing, don't shy away from opportunities to accompany a vocalist or another instrument or something like that, it's a good discipline to get it. It puts you in a different headspace as a guitarist. You have to really be solid with your rhythm, and you have to really be always deferring to the instrument that's taking the lead. A good accompanist is a rare skill, and it's very valuable these days. Okay, wow, we are almost out of time, and they've got to go. I'm going to ask one more question. Sam Burns Music is saying, Paulo, can you elaborate a little bit more on classical guitar technique as it relates to improvisation, using classical guitar technique as you're improvising in a jazz setting?
Yeah, so one thing that I've been researching recently is how to incorporate improvisation on the training of a classical guitarist. Because classical guitarists, they tend to be mostly reading notes, more than classical training. And my goal is to make sure that a classical guitarist can also see the fretboard, understand harmony, understand where the notes are, and along with that, be able to practice their technique. So I've been creating some exercises. For example, you get like a drop 2 chord like that, like a C major 7. Drop 2 is just a way to organize the voices. So you have those voices. So find different ways to practice that. Mostly on a classical guitar, you could do different arpeggios, or do tremolo. Like it's more like a classical guitar technique, but it actually doesn't sound bad on this guitar.
No, it doesn't sound bad.
First time I do that here, so that's good. So trying to incorporate different techniques with the knowledge of the chords, so you can learn both at the same time.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be something for beginners, but for a classical guitarist that already has a solid foundation, I think they should definitely explore those chords and try to see the fretboard. Also practice scales, but thinking from a perspective of an improviser. So learning melodic minor scales, all symmetric scales, all modes, and all that. But also thinking about the technique.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to, in 1 minute, I want to show that tremolo technique one more time, and kind of describe what you're doing with your top fingers there. Is it 1, 2, 3? Is it 3, 2, 1? Is it that sort of stuff? Maybe we can get a tight shot over here on it.
Can you hold that for a second? I'm going to use the other guitar.
And we'll. I just want them to see that, because I know we're going to have questions about that, and it's not a technique that we've talked about very often.
So you can play a little bit with me too if you want. So yeah, tremolo is a technique that consists in try to emulate the idea that the guitar has a sustained sound, right? Because the guitar, you play a note and the sound dies after a little bit. So there are different kinds of ways of doing tremolo, but the AMI, so ring finger, middle finger, and ring index, that would be like the most standard. So you play those 3, 1, 2, 3, and you can have a melody on the bass too. So the idea is to balance. I was playing electric guitar now, so now every time I play electric guitar, the nails get a little. I have to go back and polish them again, but that's why I play the classical stuff first. I always do that in concerts. But anyway, so that gives you an idea, and they have to be balanced. You don't want one finger being heavier than the other. And the way that our hand works, the fingers are not equal. The muscles are not the same. The bones are not the same. So you have to use your ear to try to equalize the notes.
And building up speed with it is just something that
definitely starts slow, and speed is a result of accuracy. So one of the things you can do, you can anticipate the following finger. So you play with your ring finger, and then you rest your middle finger. So that's a very good way to practice. Even scales too. Because you teach your finger to land on the string really fast.
Right.
So you should try to do it as short as you can.
That's great. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, before they play their last song, let me give you a couple of closing thoughts here. If you're interested in learning simple, it's not simple techniques, but an isolated technique like that, like the tremolo, okay? Like Paulo was saying, focus on getting the motion first. Focus on getting the motion accurate. I don't care how slow you have to do it. It's important that you get that accurate. Once you get that exactly like you want it, then speeding it up is rather mechanical, and you can do that easier. But if you just say, oh, well, I'm just going to start speeding, I'm just going to play it faster, and you don't have the motion yet, you'll constantly be banging your head against the wall. So don't get frustrated. Just slow it down. Make your fingers do what your brain is telling them to do. I don't care how slow you have to go to get that motion correct. And then as you speed it up, you can do it. Don't give up on it. That's a technique that doesn't come overnight. And I think Paulo will be the first to tell you that does not come overnight. It takes weeks and months of working at it, but you can get it, and it's a gorgeous technique. It's a good discipline to have as a guitarist to be able to do that. We will be having a live lesson next week. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it together. And I want to start a series that it's been in my head to do on triads. We haven't really isolated a specific technique like that in a while. So we're going to talk about triads. Major triads, minor triads, triads in sevenths, and using these to open up different voicing possibilities all over the neck. So we're going to start a 3-week series next week on triads. I'm going to have all sorts of handouts and things like this for you to practice with. It's going to be a great time. Don't miss that next week with us. Hey, if you're interested in our conferences, check out GuitarGathering2020.com or FingerstyleRetreat.com and do that. We're also kind of bubbling around a jazz conference yet, but I'm not ready to release that into just yet. But some big pieces are coming together for a jazz conference. Anyway. I think that's all I need to announce. I want to thank our producer, Connor, our cameraman and chat, Stephen. They're switching positions tonight, so thank you so much to our moderators, Doug and Neil. Thank you so much, guys, for all that you do. Every link that you put up, it is a blessing to me and helps serve our wonderful guitar family. If you're interested in getting connected in with the guitar family, check us out at guitargathering.com. Look us up. We've got a Facebook page, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. Be a part. Don't learn alone. Guitar playing is hard enough besides having to do it alone. Get with some other folks that can help you learn. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for the privilege of getting to be here and learn from you all for a little bit.
Thank you, Steve, for having us. We are thrilled to be here. The first time I came here, I had such a great time. The students loved it.
Yes.
And I was just so, on a personal level, it was great to meet you and see the great work you do serving the guitar community. And it's really, really, really a pleasure to be here today.
Honor having you both. What are you going to play for us?
We are going to play a piece that I wrote for the duo. It's called Fender Bender. I wrote that not long ago. We gave a recital at Belmont University, a faculty recital last semester, right? Mm-hmm. And we wanted to come up with some new material. And I was working with those diminished and whole tone scales and some ideas. And I showed it to Alex, and I went home and I wrote that. And we played in a concert, and our third time playing it now. And just one quick thing before I forget. Mm-hmm. We are playing a concert tomorrow at MTSU Guitar Festival. If you're in Nashville or Nashville area, it's tomorrow at 8 p.m. We would be happy to see some of you there too.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thanks again, Steve.
Oh, thank you, guys. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Steve.
Honor to have you here with us. Hey, keep up the great work in your own learning, and we will see you guys next time.